And adding to those concerns, some economists say the most affected in these tariff wars will be developing countries. They base their judgment on the fact that these countries largely depend on the performance of advanced economies to be sure of development assistance and trading concessions.
We already know that the less developed a country is, the more important trade is to their development program, because they don't have the developed domestic industries to produce what, say, an advanced economy does. And so these trade barriers are important, because to effectively afford imports, you have to be able to export. And the countries effectively also are affected by, if trade is constricted in the world, economic growth, global economic growth is also constricted, and that brings down commodity prices disproportionately, from that particular point of view. So we really need to look at the actual ability of the global economy to continue to grow, because that actually feeds back into commodity prices, and also the ability of African countries to actually export and afford the imports that they do need. Well, basically the first thing is that when it comes to commodity prices, they're very dependent on the actual strength of the global economy. And commodities are also traded, they also form an extremely important part of the actual trade equation in the global trade flows. And so when the global economy slows down, you find that commodity prices come down by more than what the growth would come down by, for example. And that then feeds back into African economies, as I said, disproportionately more than it would be the case, say, for a more advanced economy. The more advanced economies are more resilient and more able to actually cope with a trade war than the smaller, less developed African economies. Well, I think the main issue is that firstly, some of the commodities, Africa is in fact dominant, and they can actually possibly use market power, but that's not really a great option. I think the end result of this trade war, it's only at the beginning stages. We may actually see tariffs come down, and protectionism, especially in the form of agricultural subsidies that you see in advanced countries that the less developed countries can't match. If these come down, it actually may in the end produce an advantage, at least a possibility for Africa to come in